Welcome everyone to We're Not the Same. I'm Katie.
And I'm Brian.
And we are going to discuss all things food today. So I hope you're not too hungry listening to this, but we are going to dive into our journey of why we're not the same. How did we get here? And what our big first change was food and what we eat. And we want to take you through our whole journey, all our different diets we tried and what has worked best for us. So it's another great conversation. I hope you get so much out of it and hope it benefits your journey and can make some positive changes in your life.
And we're going to be showing you step by step some of the simple things that you can do to really get started. With that, let's dive in. Well, just before we begin, there's just such a cool thing on Instagram Reels, scrolling through and seeing this thing about, and I sent it to you, about light at conception. Like, I'd never seen this before. Like, I had no idea that there is actually like light produced when the sperm meets the egg, like inside.
It's like a spark.
Yeah, like a real spark. Like, God breathed light into this. Like, what? That's just so cool. I mean, it just gave me chills. Obviously I know it's a miracle and just absolutely incredible, but to actually, they like shown that there was actual light spark. That's so cool.
I had not actually seen that before, so that was cool to see.
Yeah.
The sperm meet the egg and actually see that light. It kind of looked like I'm going to mess it up, like a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, one of those.
Something
it's
like
like
that.
the darkness of the egg and the light behind it.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, that happened inside of me 2 times.
That's so cool. God is great. God is great. And that is just amazing. So just had to start with that. I mean, God is amazing. And that's just extra proof.
Yeah. So cool.
Very cool.
Things that people just don't know. This is not going to be a pro-life episode. Every episode on this podcast is pro-life because we are pro-life, but not that this whole episode will be about that is what I meant to say. But there's just so many topics, life being one of them, where if people just would look into it and learn the actual real facts, I think they would change their mind,
Research?
The majority of people, not the crazy people who know it's a human and they recognize that it's a baby and it's 39 weeks gestation and they're fine murdering it. Those people are evil.
Too far gone.
But you're professing Christian who believes that it's a woman's choice because it's her body. If they saw that, if they really knew that, they're either 1, not a Christian, or 2, they're going to change their mind on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just all the things. I mean, that's what it all comes down to, is just looking into stuff. I think we talked about that on that first episode. Just look into stuff. Be open. Be open to change. Be open to opening your mind. And there's a lot of information out there.
It sure is.
I saw some quote, and again, not to go in the rabbit hole of Reels, but it was like something about like, we need to go back and change like conspiracy theories to cliffhangers or something like that. Or like something like it's not a conspiracy theory at all. It's just like
Well, did you know that conspiracy theorist was a term coined by the CIA after people started looking into JFK's assassination and saying that the government had some involvement in that, which now 40 years later, don't quote me on my years later, it recently pretty much came out that it's true that the US government had a hand in Kennedy's assassination. And, it was just kind of like swept under the rug. Of course, they're not really putting that, on CNN for you. Not even Fox News. I don't know if they covered that or not, but that was where the term conspiracy theorist came from because they wanted to discredit people.
Spoiler alert. That's what it's called.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
These
that is
days.
Crazy.
Because it gets labeled as a conspiracy theory when it's always based on fact. I mean, some things truly are conspiracy theories. I don't know
we
what.
say that now.
But yeah. Like
Episode 100,
Bigfoot?
everything we said.
Like Bigfoot.
Hey, I don't know. Let's put that Bigfoot podcast.
I know.
They've got a lot of
Blurry
great stuff.
creatures. You
Blurry
gotta listen to
creatures.
that. I know. That's why I was saying that. Anywho, what are we talking about today? We want to go back to the beginning of why we're not the same. And we touched on it in the last episode, but basically we started on this with somewhat of a health journey. It was like a lot of little things that added up and pushed us, but we're going to go back to the very beginning, which we had to think actually pretty hard on. We're like, what is the beginning?
Me, probably a little more than you, but thanks for that.
I had to think about it too, but we did that and we came to the conclusion, and then you forgot what conclusion we had come to, so we had to do it again.
Fair enough. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah, so it all started for us, as we've determined and now talked. 2 times when you had to go dairy-free during breastfeeding, not pregnancy, because those are definitely different things.
Mr. Pro-Life over here doesn't know the difference between pregnancy and breastfeeding.
I just said that time for George's pregnancy, and it was not pregnancy. It was the after.
Once again, this is post bedtime. It is after 9 p.m., so
that's right.
I'll give you a little grace with that.
I appreciate that.
Especially since he did put both girls down for me tonight, so I could have a break. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome, babe.
So when I was breastfeeding Georgia, pretty shortly after she was born, we found out that she had a suspected, I now have questions, of course, but we'll go with what we knew then, a dairy allergy or intolerance, whatever you want to call it. And so I had to cut out dairy from my diet. And that was really the first time that I started looking at ingredient labels, which now is just like, are you stupid? Like, you don't look at what's in your food? But I guess no, like you go to the store, you buy the food on the shelves, and it's just what you do.
You know you should do better than just picking up something off the shelf. So you look at all natural, like that must be better, or like things even say like healthy choice, or even like heart healthy. Like, I mean, you go with what.
And if you ever did flip the package over, you were looking at the calories or the carbs or how much fiber or how much protein, like, because I would look at a nutrition label. I looked at those before, but never the ingredients. And it's not a coincidence that they're like teeny tiny, just like a paragraph, like, oh, don't bother looking at that. It's not important.
Almost like they want you to focus on the big, bold calorie number that they talk about.
Yeah. So ridiculous. But anyway, so that was the first time that I started looking into labels, and it was actually literally Oreos. Sponsored by Oreos. No, just kidding. So I found out when I was researching, what is dairy free that I can eat, because that was all very new to me. My motto used to be cheese is the glue that holds my life together. So having to go dairy free was like a huge sacrifice at the time. Now it's like no big deal. But then I literally weighed like, am I going to breastfeed? It was a split second, question. Of course I wanted to continue, but the thought crossed my mind.
Well, we were in a different place back then.
Yeah,
too.
we were totally.
Like, totally.
We were not the same.
We were not the same. There we go.
So it was Oreos are vegan, if you didn't know. And so I used to eat a lot of them, which is disgusting and
healthy because it's vegan.
Luckily, our bodies are designed to heal and to process these sort of blunders that we cause ourselves. So I was eating a lot of Oreos, and one day I was like, if this like white cream, like it's literally called the cream, right? In the Oreo. Sure. If this isn't milk, then what is it? And so I looked and I saw there's like 3 different types of oil in Oreos. And I was like, how is this oil? Like, it just made me think. So then I thought about the vegan butter that I had gotten to use as an alternative. And I was like, well, what is vegan butter? Literally, what is that? So I looked. oil. And all of a sudden, I was able to look at ingredient lists and see that like everything I was eating was oil. Oil formed into different things, which just, I don't know how I then was able to like connect that to that those oils are problematic.
Probably some research, I would guess, or like looking in it. Probably like everything on an ingredient list as you start looking into, because you don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
Or like you've heard of it, but don't really sure. Like maybe you were thinking like, how did they turn sunflower oil or safflower or like what all the different vegetable oils into this cream thing?
Yeah.
That engineering.
Well, it
kicked
also
in.
was kind of the timing worked well. It's like almost like God planned it this way. And so Georgia was born in May of 2020, which was like the height of the pandemic. So I had started following a lot of a totally different type of person than who I followed, you know, back then. Went from like fashion influencers and mom bloggers to these holistic, conspiracy minded, misinformation, you know, people that get all these things. Spoiler alert people. And so I think it kind of somehow that type of person, like that's the type of content that they were also posting. And so somehow I just started to see this information, or I don't know, the algorithm, like connected with my Google searches and started showing me stuff on Instagram. But I think there was some connection just with the timing and who I was following and what I was seeing and all that, where I learned that these different oils, safflower, sunflower, canola, vegetable, soybean, all those oils are called seed oils, and they're highly processed oils and they are highly inflammatory oils. So they cause a lot of inflammation in the body, which that's another thing that we learned on the journey is pretty much the root of all disease is inflammation. And so everything that we were eating was highly inflammatory. And so that was basically the start of the journey.
And had been eating for years. And really
all of college. I mean, college was really, I think, where we went downhill.
Because you're not home cooking.
Well, so yeah, like when we were at home, our moms cooked us great meals, like home cooked meals.
Even if they weren't like, I would say they're not like what we do now, where we are focused on cooking, you know, meals that had less oil or all those things. But just like, I think by the nature of having a home cooked meal, you're naturally inclined to, you're going to be eating more whole food naturally.
Yeah. And things have also gone down rapidly. I mean, I'm pretty sure glyphosate came into the scene in like 2013 or something like that.
Which is a pesticide used.
Yes, which is one of, you know, that's the reason you buy organic is to avoid things like glyphosate. Yep. So we kind of hit life at this like perfect storm of all these things coming down the pipeline to destroy us all.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just saying like when our moms were cooking for us when we were the girls' ages, 2 and 5, whatever they were cooking, like it wasn't as 100%. Harmful, you know, as the things that pretty much around the time we went to college.
Yes.
Everything just was like, ooh.
Yep. And we can go into why we think that is or why we know that is, but just, I think that was big for us. Is just starting to read those labels and looking into stuff was huge. And just committing to it too, I think I just think like it was like it's like a snowball down the hill. Like as soon as you start learning about this stuff and looking into stuff, it's then like, okay, well, what about my ingredient labels to the medications or vaccines? Or like you just start looking into like, what are the ingredient lists for everything?
Yeah.
And then what are those things?
My shampoo, my laundry detergent, my...
Sure, I guess I jumped to things you don't typically jump to next. The things that are more
you
impactful.
Forgot once again like a whole year of the journey between from Oreos to some of the other things you mentioned. But
yeah, very true. But yeah, products.
Yeah, so I think like you're saying, once I was aware and started reading ingredient labels, then it just begs the question as you see more and more of these ingredients of things you've never heard of, what is that? Why is it harmful? And like I said, combined with people on social media who are talking about these things, I'm I'm so thankful for those people. And I think that's why I have kind of become one of them, because it literally changed my life, you know? And so I think that's something that I hear a lot talked about in the Christian space of even like sharing your faith, but it applies to just every effort that you're making. Like, you're planting seeds. Every single thing you do, positive, negative, or otherwise, is planting a seed potentially in someone else's life. And you don't know when that is going to take root in their lives. But for all those people on Instagram, that I know how hard it is to make some of these posts and do the research and format it into a tiny little square that's cute, that makes people want to see it, that gets shared, and so the algorithm doesn't bury it and call it misinformation. Like, it's not easy. So I'm just so grateful for all I've learned through those people. And it was, for me, and what I always tell people, I use it as a springboard for things to look into. I don't just take the word of something I see on social media. I take it. I often, if they cite a study, I often look up that study, read through it, or search on Google, not Google, but that's like become a verb at this point. Search it on whatever browser and, you know, look through a lot of different sources to see what it says.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so proud of you for like doing that. And like I've said in the past, like I'm so thankful for you saving our family in that regard. And like it's been amazing. And it's been incredible to see you grow in your confidence with that, and like having something to really stand behind and fight for, and like know truth. Like, and I think that's where, you know, we've always been part of the church and things like that. But like, I think this health journey kind of reignited our, you know, journey in our faith as well. Just becoming more convicted against, you know, taking care of ourselves and our bodies, and ultimately that only leads you towards faith and your trust in God. So, but I'm just so proud of you for doing all that, and
Thanks, honey.
It's been incredible to see you grow and have the confidence to put yourself out there on social media. And now, having done some YouTube stuff myself, it is, if you've never done the social media thing, it is extremely difficult. So
it's a lot of work, a lot of effort.
Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we wanted to talk about was how we got it to, I don't know, like stick and just really commit to the changes.
Yeah.
Do you know what the cause that?
We didn't talk about this one beforehand.
I didn't like prepare him with
I didn't get my show notes on this one. What caused it to stick?
Yeah.
I feel like some of it was our experiences.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay. All right. Sweet. This is where I started with the previous conversation of like what got us to where we did. But
yes.
I think
sadly it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I think having those experiences in the past helped this.
They were priming the pump.
Yes. Yeah. God had a plan, as hard as it was, and is still hard to accept.
Yeah.
But I think those things of, you know, losing your dad from cancer, me getting cancer, getting through that, all of COVID and just dealing with that and being pregnant during that time. And you mentioned May 2020. And like, I remember that was the time when New York was all about like, they weren't letting people like husbands in, like moms had to give birth to their kids by themselves and all this ridiculous stuff. Thank God we live in Florida, but just all of those things combined, I had a bunch of gut issues and health things that I've been going through for a long time too. And obviously nothing we were doing was working. So I think all of that combined was a huge catalyst.
Yeah.
But what else am I missing?
No, that was it. I mean, I feel like a big one that was kind of ongoing was, like you mentioned, the gut issues that you had. And it kind of, I feel like, pushed us down the road of where we started, which was like with me being dairy free and then slowly learning about ingredients to then trying different diets and things, trying to find something that was going to work for him and like what was eventually going to make him feel the best. And we finally figured it out. We're not always perfect on it, so you don't always feel perfect, but I think, as far as I know, it is the best we've been able to do.
Yeah, and it took a really long time to get here, but just for some background too, because I'm sure I think the percentage of Americans who have gut issues now is like ridiculous, which
Probably
I'm
like
not.
95%. I
Yeah.
mean,
So I don't think I was alone in this, but like I went through everything, and I think, and in some of this,
and when we say gut issues, it's basically like what, IBS or
yeah,
what do
I was,
they? I
I
feel
was,
like that's what they label everyone. Like,
yeah, I was gonna go into that. Like, yeah, I was basically labeled IBS. I mean, I had 2 separate times I was scoped from both sides, and like they didn't really find anything. There
which
was
is the traditional route if you go to
to
a
a GI.
gastroenterologist and tell them that you have gut issues, they're gonna give you some toxic stuff to clear you out, put you under, put foreign things in your body,
Yeah,
and then tell you you're totally fine.
yeah. I mean, I had CT scans. I think I even had an MRI too, because I had a lot of like pains and stuff. And also, I'll say in that like, and this is true. I think all the time, like you have to take charge of your own medical path.
That can go
That'll be
into the next episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in another episode. But I push them because part of, and we can talk more about this in another, but like a lot of my past, like my mom passed away when she was like 34 or 35 from a bile duct, which is like in your gut area, cancer. So like I feel like I've been more attuned to that. So anyway, a long story short, we'd been searching for a solution, went down the traditional medical route, didn't have much success, tried a couple different diets, never stuck around long enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
Sought out from there, I think we sought out a more naturopathic doctor was kind of next.
Even once we saw him, we were kind of doing the keto diet, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. I don't
Like,
remember what we were doing at that point. Oh,
when
no,
we
I
saw
thought we were doing more just organic stuff.
Oh yeah, you're right. Before we saw him.
We saw him. And so then we saw a naturopath doctor, which was really great because if you haven't seen a naturopath doctor, one of the things they can do, it's very simple, is order blood work, but like actual blood work, like testing things that normal doctors don't test for, but things you should be tested for, like different toxins and like the PFA. Everybody talks about the plastics and the microplastics and all that's like they test for that. They also test for like yeast and stuff. And one of those things was candida, which is like a yeast that we all have. But if it's out of whack for you, there was actually a study, I think in Japan, that if you have candida overgrowth, the chance of all these different types of cancer were like exceedingly high, like the percentage, just because it probably goes back to inflammation and it's attack of your body.
Well, your gut is 90% of your immune system is in your gut, so
that's true. Yeah, so that was a big one to kind of find that out, and that led to a diet.
And wasn't thyroid cancer like the highest one on all of that?
Yeah, it was some higher. I don't know if it was the highest,
like 40% or something like that.
Yeah. So it was one of those things.
And that was after you had already had your surgery. You were already done with the main treatment of your thyroid cancer.
Yep, already had surgery. Yep.
We really need to have an episode all about that journey too, though, because even though we did end up going the traditional route of surgery, there were still further treatment that we opted out of that could have had potential harmful side effects.
Yeah.
And praise God, you haven't needed that. Like, you have been clear of cancer.
Yes. Yep.
Despite not doing those things.
And if you're interested, like, we'll get to that story, but if you're interested or have someone struggling with thyroid cancer, like Katie and I did put out some videos of our journey because we wanted to share it with other people who are going through it. So we'll link it in the show notes, and it's on Katie's YouTube as well.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So if you know someone going through it or going through it yourself, feel free to check those out or reach out. Happy to chat.
Well, yeah, you can watch it, but reach out because we have different advice than what we did.
That's true. It was more of what we did then, and we have more advice now. But anyhow, I think those are all the things that got this to stick. Also got us to try different diets, kind of taking us just from like organics to what do we do next. And the Candida led us down the journey of like no sugars and no dairy, no gluten. It was after Thanksgiving. He was like, I think it was right around Thanksgiving.
It was before Thanksgiving, but then he was like, well, you can wait until after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, at this point, you might as well enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner and then cut out dairy, gluten, and all sugars.
Including natural sugar within fruit. So this was where I think it was bad advice.
I think so too. Because then that leaves
that you did that for months
months.
and it didn't work.
It did not work. I did
So
not
that was
feel
not
great.
the answer.
Yep. And there was a lot of different teas and things that were supposed to help too. And I think I felt a little better at first because you're cutting out the gluten.
Like an elimination diet.
It's an elimination, yeah. So you're going to feel better because you're getting rid of things that have toxins and pesticides and all that. But now once
you really get paired out, like there is nothing processed you can eat if those are your restrictions.
Yes.
Like, I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing.
exactly.
So that's why you feel better.
Yeah, exactly. So any diet that's any restrictive, whether it's this diet or whatever, you're going to feel a little bit better at first. It's just the long lasting like sustainability. And for me, the constant, just all the different vegetables and cauliflowers and all of that. And obviously the protein was part of that too, but it just didn't seem to have the effect that I was hoping for. So I don't know exactly how we stumbled upon it, but then the carnivore diet, animal-based diet was kind of next.
Well, I started hearing about that on Instagram. This is why I don't get off social media, because it's been so beneficial in my life.
We have that conversation all the time.
The positives outweigh the negatives still, but I don't know. I could pare it back. But anyway, so I started learning about the carnivore diet, which really it's called an animal-based diet is what we do. And the benefits of that for people with like gut and digestive issues. And so that's why I started like paying more attention to it and learning about it. And I think, like we're saying, like our experiences prime the pump for us to be able to like listen to something radically different than what we've ever heard, like vegetables are bad for you, and not just immediately say, psh,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. This guy is nuts. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that's the normal response. If somebody tells you vegetables are bad for you, you're like, no. But because of everything we had been through, it was like, oh, I wonder, and this goes back to the question we said in the first episode, I wonder why he believes that. And then you're able to listen and understand and see the proof that's provided and the studies that have been done. And just for me, a lot of it is God bless me with really good intuition and discernment. I feel like that's one of the gifts that I have. And so I just consider things, and like if it makes sense, then I go with it. And if I feel any sort of inkling of something being off, then I'm like, no, that's not for me. You know, not that it's not for anybody, but it's not for me because that's my discernment. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that led us down the path, and man, we switched over. And
so the biggest difference was like a huge, like half of the carnivore diet is eating fruit. So you went from no fruit to like tons of fruit.
And that was amazing.
Tasting or feeling?
Both.
Yeah. It's literally like the best diet ever. Eat steak, fruit, eggs, avocados.
Yep. Yeah. And the definition of vegetable too is like some things you might think of vegetables are more on the fruit side.
Yeah.
Like your cucumbers, your zucchini, squash, pumpkin, like those are more on the fruit side than vegetable, but not that we eat a ton of those. But yeah, just going to the meat. And the big thing with meats is that the vitamins and minerals, this was the other thing that blew my mind. Like the minerals, you always hear about the vitamins of your broccolis and all that. And like, yeah, it might have that, but the bioavailability, the ability for your body to absorb those minerals is like crap.
And also the quantity, like, do you know how much broccoli you have to eat to get the same, amount as a piece of meat of whatever, I don't know an exact example, but it's like a truckload.
True. Yeah. And it's so funny to go back to like how kids reject that stuff early on. Mm-hmm. It's like, is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, maybe, there might be like some fundamental thing. And, he's good at saying too, like it's what works for you and like what feels good for you.
We should probably say, who is he?
Oh yeah. Can we get a sponsor? A partnership with Carnivore MD?
Yes, Carnivore MD. So he is an actual certified medical doctor, which did give some credibility to me. And then he just went down his own path and his own research and obviously is way off from the conventional
Yeah.
approach at this point. But yeah, we can link his Instagram below too. He's become quite popular at this point. And I mean, from our experience, for good reason.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because like there'll even be people who say, and obviously we're not medical doctors, so you got to look into it, but
Yes, none of this is medical advice. Please seek a healthcare professional before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or medication.
just make sure it's a good doctor.
No, don't actually do that. That's just what you have to say.
Yeah.
That's the disclaimer.
Yes, that's the disclaimer. Please go find someone to help you with this. Organ meat, we do it through like pills that are just basically dried out organs chopped up into little pills, have so much vitamins, going back to like the bioavailability of all the vitamins you need. And you can track, there's like an app, I'll link it in the show notes too. It's Chronometer or something like that, where it actually tracks all of the different like nutrients that you're getting from your food. So you can see like, oh man, I'll eat the diet we have and then do the organs as supplements. And that was the other thing, supplements. It's like you're eating food, they're considered supplements, but it's just organ meat, but it has everything that your daily vitamin and all this stuff, which is total crap, and your body can't digest all of those things together.
I was gonna say that's the other thing we've like come so far on. We took so many supplements, and I'm not 100% bashing supplements. We still take supplements from time to time for a targeted, specific use at a specific time where it's clear that our body needs something additional. Your diet should be your supplement. Like you should be eating a nutrient dense diet.
Yeah.
To where you don't need additional supplements. There are times, I feel like the times we need supplements are the times where we're not eating right.
Yes, 100%.
And like our bodies tell us that.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is the fruit. Back to people are so afraid of fruit because it has so much sugar and it's going to cause diabetes.
I'm going to like wring someone's neck if they say that to me.
There's literal like studies that show by eating fruit, it actually like reduces your diabetes because your body, it's fructose by itself is shown to be bad, but fructose in its natural whole food form is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I mean, it certainly worked for us. And we also, when we were hardcore in the beginning, we like didn't get sick ever because there's so much vitamin C and stuff in fruits that it's your defense mode.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But, and the other thing like that he proclaims and that we're a big proponent of now is like sunlight and getting outside and grounding. And we talk about this.
The other carnivore guy.
That's true. Carnivore Aurelius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But those things are good too.
Yes.
So, and we're not, like we said it before in the first episode, we're not perfect in any way. We stumble and we still eat out. Now there's some strategies for eating out and finding the right things.
Yeah, the way we eat out is a little bit different, but I think we got really strict, and that was, for me at least, a really bad place from then my mental health, to where I felt like all I did was cook.
Yeah.
And never like had a chance to just say, we're going to just eat out, you know? So it's a balance. I do believe that there's a balance, but I do not believe in everything in moderation. I don't believe that harmful things should be done even in moderation.
And why is that?
Oh, yeah. That was like, my dad has a lot of infamous things, and he did always say everything in moderation. But now, knowing what we know, you know, I wish we had this knowledge to back then say like, well, no, like we shouldn't eat Taco Bell in moderation because it's not good for us. Although even at Taco Bell, maybe there's something that you could get. I don't know.
I there's been stuff to show that their meat is actually
their meat is
like
not even meat.
So
yeah,
I don't know about that one.
Taco Bell is one that we have not backtracked at all on. But like McDonald's, for example, it actually is a good place. I don't know. Should we?
I'm hestant to tell you this hack.
Secret?
Yeah, because they're gonna find out.
The Carnivore MD already shared it.
That's true.
It's like 1 million followers. So
yeah, our 3
already
will
out
really benefit. But yeah, if you go to McDonald's, you can get the quarter-pound patties. You have to order the quarter-pound patties on a plate, is what I say every time.
And they still get confused.
But you can literally get just the patties, the quarter-pound patties. So you can get, I usually get 2 of them, but it's like between $1.30 and $1.50 for each of those patties. So you can eat, and they're like the McDonald's meat is actual. It's like just meat. It's
Yeah,
been
so
frozen.
it
but
probably
it's,
has like antibiotics and hormones, and like it's not the best. But like if you're out, which I always say, like if we lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere, like we would never have a time where we needed to get McDonald's because there
Yes.
probably wouldn't be one within 50 miles. But for the life that we live today, there are times where we are out of the house for meals and we need something to eat. So we can go to somewhere where we can get meat that, what you were just about to say, they don't use any oils. They just cook the meat in the meat grease, and it's inexpensive. It's better than pretty much anything else you can get out.
Yeah, the worst stuff at McDonald's is the bun that the hamburger is on.
Yeah, and the cheese,
And
which
the
I
cheese.
sometimes do still get.
Yeah, but anywho, there's hacks and stuff out there.
And I will say we are pretty good about packing food. I would say most times we go out,
We are better.
we pack food to bring with us. But sometimes, like, you just end up being out for more than one meal. And then you're like, you can
Yeah.
only bring such a large cooler with you, you know?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual advice, I guess, with the food. So not everybody is going to want to follow the carnivore diet, which is fine. Although if you have issues, I would say give it a try.
And
Literally try it for 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks where you don't eat a salad and see how you feel.
no oils. The biggest thing is no oils, no vegetables, meat and fruit. If you can get high quality meat,
Even better.
even better. 100% grass fed meat. Eggs, same thing. Pasture raised eggs, organic. Like,
If you can find them. $20 a dozen. No, just kidding.
we need to get chickens. But yeah, and look up Carnivore MD. I mean, he's got all the information for it. But like, try it. And I would say, like, stick with it for even more than 2 weeks. Like, give it time because your body has to like detox. And don't be surprised if you get sick because it's a natural, like, your body detoxing is a huge thing. And like, it's going to be like, whoa,
Yeah, that is
what?
so true.
Now I can get rid of all this crap that we've been storing inside of here. And so don't take that as a bad thing. That's actually your body getting rid of it.
Yes. That's another episode. We need a notebook here, man, for all these episode ideas. We need to talk about sickness.
Luckily, this is recorded, so we can go back.
True.
But yeah, you got to give it time. You got to give it time. And the crazy thing is you're eating tons of protein. So like if you work out at all, like your body's like, all right.
Literally, the only time that I have ever noticed results from working out was when we were working out while doing this carnivore diet. I actually like felt like I was starting to get abs,
What?
which like literally never happened before in my life. So that was pretty cool. We should like do that again. I don't know. Now we're doing this. This is our workout time. So
I know. We got to step that workout
can't do it
time
all.
up. We should change this to be working out while we're
We're
talking. to
That
you
would
guys.
be just great. Switch to audio only. If
Hey,
we
people do that at work. Some people, I would not recommend it, are running on a treadmill while on a Zoom call and like sweating and like, okay,
You need to mute yourself.
take
there.
it easy. But anywho, yes.
So, like you said, the number one thing that you want to stop doing is using the seed oils, like I mentioned. So the better oils to use that you'll see people talk about are avocado and olive oil. But I even have taken a big step back from using those because they still have a certain level of inflammatory properties. And also you have to be really particular with the quality of oil that you're getting because a lot of times the olive oil will be mixed with sunflower oil or something like that, or with the avocado oil, it won't be pure. You want to get like cold pressed. For the olive oil, it's like best if it comes from California. So
EVOO,
it's
extra virgin
olive oil.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's more to it than just, instead of vegetable oil, use olive oil. Like you have to be a little bit more intentional. So the one I love to use now is coconut oil. We literally buy tubs of coconut oil. It's
Yep.
so crazy. Which it is fattening. Oh my gosh, don't freak out.
Saturated fat.
But
It's killing America.
actually good
Actually,
for you.
it's opposite.
Yeah, it's actually really good for you. And with the carnivore diet, you're not getting that much fat. So you do need some fat.
Yes.
So you need to eat avocados and you need to eat coconut oil. And then tallow is another thing that you can use to cook in, which if you don't know, that's just beef fat. If you can find it. This carnivore diet, man, it's taken off. I can't find tallow at the store, so I'm going to have to order some online.
Yep.
So that is like, if you just do that, like cut out the seed oils, you'll be 50% or more of the way there, because
It cuts out about 60% of your processed foods.
That would be another challenge for yourself. Don't change anything. Just for a month, make sure you're looking at the ingredient list of every single thing you eat. Just like start with that.
Yeah.
You don't even know what you're putting in your body right now. That's a problem.
Yep. 100%.
So what's the second thing after the oils?
Honestly, it's probably gluten. I mean, it's not just for people with celiac disease. The problem with gluten is, well, it's got a lot of things, but like,
so gluten comes from several sources, but the main one is wheat. So any product that has wheat in it, which will be like the top allergens are always called out on an ingredient list, so you can easily spot them at the bottom. It'll say contains milk, egg, wheat, soy, any of those big ones. It has to be like legally called out in addition to being listed as an ingredient. Yep. So if you see wheat, you really want to avoid that unless it's organic. And then even then, I think being intentional about minimizing the gluten in my life has like moved the needle for me a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that organic piece is really important. And I think, you talk about like, there's like Ezekiel bread and stuff like that is still wheat bread, but it's organic, and there's other organic things in it. Because the big thing with wheat is that it's one of the highest sprayed pesticide products.
They spray it with pesticides while it's growing, and then they spray it with glyphosate because it speeds up the drying process. I guess it has to get dried before it can get like milled or whatever.
Yep.
So it's like getting sprayed at least twice.
Yeah. Which again, back to the seed oils cause inflammation. These pesticides are toxins, so they're going to cause inflammation, as well as like they can cause DNA disruption,
hormone disruption.
Oh yeah, hormone disruption, all the bad
probably
things.
A neurotransmission blocker or something crazy like that.
So yeah, I would read ingredient lists to just start being aware, and then I'd cut out seed oil. Like even before you feel like you need to cut out vegetables and stuff like that, that can be later. Like I would rather you look at ingredient lists, cut out seed oils, and then maybe try for gluten after that. And thank God these days, like most places have a lot of gluten-free stuff. And not to say that you should be eating gluten-free stuff all the time, because that's also probably not the best, because it's usually rice flours or whatever it is. But it's just another place to start.
Yeah, because gluten does cause a lot of problems for people, whether it's celiacs or whether it's some sort of an autoimmune disorder that you may have. So like I borderline, depending on who you ask, have Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. So gluten to the body looks a lot like the thyroid producing hormone. So if you have leaky gut, which can be caused by things like gluten and all the other toxins in our world, then the gluten can escape out, and your body thinks that it's thyroid tissue, which obviously shouldn't be in the gut, and so it attacks it. And so that's why it's an autoimmune disorder, because your body is attacking itself.
Well, yeah. I didn't know that about the wheat going through the leaky gut. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that's, like unless you've had specific blood work done to test for thyroid antibodies, you're not going to know. I feel like I said, I'm kind of borderline. I would say I'm like asymptomatic Hashimoto's.
Yep.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
It's convoluted. It's not so straightforward. But the point is, you don't have to have celiac disease to benefit from cutting out gluten.
Yep.
And so along that same line, I would say with dairy, conventional dairy is not good.
Yep.
And can cause a lot of problems because it's loaded up with antibiotics and hormones. Yep. So you really want to be doing like grass-fed dairy, or at the very least eating things, if they have dairy in it, make sure it's organic, because organic, they're not allowed to use certain growth hormones and antibiotics and stuff on the cows that produce the organic dairy. So
Yeah, the other thing I'd love to look into more is the A2 stuff, because I know
yeah,
that
we should try that.
that's a much better, I think it has to do with the protein strands or whatever. But like, from my understanding, we need to do more research on it. But like, cows used to be A2 cows, like the milk that they produce had this particular protein in it. And then over time, as like massive farming and breeding and all this, it like disrupted it and turned it to A1, which is like most of the milk you get these days. And that is like highly allergenic to people. Like, that's how milk allergy apparently is part of like the milk allergy, is this whole A1 protein. And now people are starting to see that. So like, I've seen a couple farms that are like slowly through breeding trying to get
So is
fully
that a
back to
GMO
A2.
then?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know the difference between breeding and GMO.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can add that to our list of things to research.
I guess it's like the pros and cons of everything.
Yes.
Which is another dad saying.
That is true. But yeah, so look into that one too. But yeah, dairy, it's just crazy. When I learned about dairy, how they make all the different percentages of milk, like I always thought like, oh, they, remove some fat and then that was 2% or whatever. But like, they take the milk from the cow, they superheat it.
Well, that's
pasteurized milk.
All milk in store is going to be pasteurized.
Yep. Which kills all of the bad bacteria. And
if you believe in that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
and then all of the good bacteria and all the good enzymes that are part of milk. But anyway, after it's heated, they separate 100% all of the fat off. And then they just have it's skim, basically, no fat, and then all the fat. And then they just mix back in the portion of fat to hit. So even whole milk, what you think of whole milk, like, oh, this is like milk from the cow that's been pastured. No, it hits a certain percentage of fat to be considered whole milk. So it's not even the whole milk. Like, I thought whole milk was like, came out of the cow, sure, it was pasteurized, and then you got it. It's highly processed. So that's unfortunate.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, dairy. I'm still dairy free. I would like to get back to being dairy.
Being able to at least have something that like might contain dairy. I don't think you're ever going to be eating like pizza again.
No. But that has been harder, I feel like, than gluten free.
Still easier though in this day and age.
It is. It is helpful that
like a lot of stuff is available.
Yep. But you have to be careful, right? Because there's just somebody talking about like pizza and cheeses. Like, they have vegan cheese, but what is it? It's just a bunch of seed oils. So like,
well, so that then brings me to my next advice, which is to try to just eat food without an ingredient label. So
what?
all processed foods are gonna have some sort of an issue. Like, think about the like, we have these freeze-dried apples and there's no like skin on the apple or anything. It's just like bits of the apple meat, that's freeze-dried. Or we'll buy sometimes the little cups of peaches or mandarin oranges that, sometimes you do just need a convenience item or you just want it, I guess. But you have to ask yourself, even though the ingredient list may only say apples or oranges, how did it get there? What did it take that technically doesn't get listed as an ingredient? How did the mandarin orange get peeled and all that white stuff gets picked off perfectly? And what's the juice that's in there? Yeah,
you know how hard it is to peel those oranges.
And you're making that cutie and your kid's screaming because there's white strings all over it. Like, how did it get from that into that little cup where there's none of that?
Yeah.
So it's just something to keep in mind. We're like, yes, we live, again, for the life that we live, there are times where we need or want a convenience item, but truly convenience kills. I mean,
oh yeah.
And the other thing too that people, I don't know very many kids who turn down fruit. I feel like kids,
oh yeah,
on the whole, they love fruit, so it's not that much of an issue. But if your kid only has ever had the little cups of mandarin oranges, then you try to switch them to the mandarin orange that has more of the texture and has the white stringies, and like some are bigger than other, like all those things, like that can be a problem for them because it's unfamiliar, it's not consistent. So like, just start your kids young on just the whole foods, and like you'll never have problems with their eating. Like, our girls eat so well. That's something I'm super proud of, is how our girls eat and like what they eat. Like they drink bone broth. They
Yeah.
like they love bone broth. They drink honey
Well,
tea, like which is
y-
just water with honey.
yeah. Well, I will say that was a huge testament to you too. Like early on, like before we knew any of this, we were always in the camp of like, we're not gonna cook them specific things for dinner. Like, I think that's part of how we both grew up. Like, you're gonna
Yeah.
eat what you're gonna like what we're making for dinner. Like, we're not going to make you special things, or like, sure, there's times when we make them chicken nuggets or whatever, but like on a whole,
But that's not like we don't cook a meal for us and then cook them chicken nuggets. Like,
yeah,
we're all having nuggets.
we're all
for dinner.
that's right. There are those nights. But yeah, that it was like, that was always a goal of ours starting out, I think, in our parenting book.
Yeah,
like,
and that's
we're
true.
gonna try to have them try things and not be scared of stuff.
And I will say, like, Avery was a super easy
Yep.
kid. Just, she's awesome. Georgia isn't, like she is a little bit more picky. She is a little more hesitant, but like we still have been able to produce a really good eating kid. So I feel like, she's not the worst picky eater. So I feel for the parents out there struggling with that. But I'm also saying, like, don't just let that be your excuse of just like, oh, she's picky.
Yeah.
Like, well, you still have to train her up to like eat a certain way.
Yeah.
Because it's for their benefit. Like, it's hard.
It is
But
hard.
it's for their good,
That's pretty much everything that we've been through now. It's like, hard is the right way. Like, if it's hard,
Convenience kills. Like, convenience is easiness. Like,
it's just like push through it. There's things still in our lives that we need to do that for. But like,
true.
it just makes such a big difference if you're able to push through it. And now we can't even go back. Like, we've reached the point now where it's like, I just can't go back. Like, there's no going back to the horrible stuff we were eating before. Like, not that there won't be times where
we're never going to eat a Dorito again.
Yeah.
Or an Oreo. It's just not going
We
to
might have
happen.
the Simple Mills version of an Oreo.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we're not going back to like, you just can't.
I'm just waiting for the day I go to the grocery store and they have organic Oreos. Like, like eventually, because the market's growing. Like, the market is continually growing. So eventually they're going to come out with organic Oreos. And so then, I don't know. I'll have to see. Maybe they switch to coconut oil.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to call out what I've been saying for a long time. Like, we're going to at some point have to start looking into the companies that certify these things as organic, and who owns these companies and who does the regulatory, because...
Yeah, but okay, don't bring out all the organic naysayers, please. Okay? I already deal with them enough.
I'm not bashing it at all. I'm just, based off of everything we know, like...
Yeah.
I still think it's 100% still better.
Literally, like, okay, strawberries. So I feel like everyone knows this by now. The EWG, Environmental Working Group, they put out the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 every year, which they test the pesticide level in a lot of different produce and kind of show you which ones should definitely buy organic and which ones are not. So they're literally testing it. So I guess you could say, well, I don't trust their tests, which I guess, okay, but this is a third party. So what skin in the game do they have? I don't know. You can argue, whatever. The non-organic strawberries have like 20 pesticides found on them, and the organic strawberries have like 5 pesticides, because there are pesticides that can be used on organic food, but it's pesticides that have been tested to not cause harm to humans, which is kind of important. But my whole point was like, there were, for like a party and stuff, I'm not going to buy like $7 strawberries when I'm trying to feed 20 people. So I've bought regular strawberries, and like, to me, they literally taste like nothing. It's like true. You bite into it and it literally has no flavor, versus an organic strawberry, same time of year. They're not from different seasons. It's like flavorful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that, to me, like, that tells me that something's going on.
Yeah, that goes back to everything too. Like it reminds me of Ratatouille when he's biting, into stuff and like seeing all.
You love that scene.
The colors, and like they're mixing the cheese and everything together, and like I feel like that does start to happen as you eat more whole food and like stop eating the other stuff.
Yeah.
It also happens with meat. So like now that we've ate so much meat,
I could tell you all the different cuts.
Which I would have never thought, especially you would have been able to do that. Like between your hamburger, your sirloin, your, filet, ribeye. And also our kids can now do that. So our 4-year-old, or now 5-year-old, Definitely prefers the filet mignon.
She's
He's
so
a little
spoiled.
bummed when it's just a sirloin we're having for
She's like,
dinner.
it's a little chewier, not as melt in your mouth. It's not a fillet, is it? I'm like, no, it's not a fillet.
The other day I
Sorry.
said, do you want to do a ribeye or New York strip tonight? She's like, do we have any filet? No. She's like, well, which one's closer to filet? Okay, so
Oh my gosh.
I know, but
Sorry to her future husband.
yes,
Gonna have to work a little harder.
that's why I pray every night for them that their husbands, their current, the plan,
Their
hopefully
future
their
husbands.
future husbands, are doing all this stuff and even better than us.
We are open to the possibility of a somewhat arranged marriage. If anybody out there living a life similar to us, let's stay in touch over the years. Let them be friends.
True.
Courtship, all that.
Yeah, that's right. We got a lot more episodes coming on this stuff.
Yeah.
But we have thrown a lot at you tonight. I feel like we have gone through a lot of our health journey, and
I know we never even got to like products and stuff, so we'll have to save that for another time because there's a lot with that too. But the food is, to me, the number one. I always rank food as number one because that is the fuel for your body. That's the gas to your engine.
wow, nice. Yeah, what I was gonna say is through college, and a lot of people still have this too, of like, if I work out, I can eat whatever I want.
That was my thing. Yep.
And that's what we did, and I got cancer. Not
And
to
who's
say
to
for
say,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
God's will, God's plan.
Exactly. But, and now true testament, like eating is the number one. The workout is the next level.
The
like
workout,
it's pushing you.
Yeah, workout obviously has tons of benefits.
Huge.
And like your body needs to have muscle mass and like all these things. But that literally doesn't matter if you get sick from all the toxic crap that you're eating. So
Yeah.
you got, and like we said, like you can look back on my Instagram and YouTube. You can go back literal years from when we were in college. You can see us go on my blog. Like there's photo evidence. We never were big people. Like nobody ever would have described us as overweight or chunky, or like, I feel like we were always just, we would be described as thin people. Fit, you for sure would be described as a fit person. But we even saw big changes in our body.
Oh my gosh.
From eating in this new way. Like even outside working out, just from the food diet changes alone, for the better, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what my point was with that, but yeah, just throwing it out there.
Absolutely. And this is a lot, but like we said, we kind of laid out those things, kind of start easy and reach out to us too. Like if you need a support partner or
Yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time, like for recommendations of stuff, and like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, I love it. I love to be able to help people. That's why I have my Instagram account the way that it is now, because I want to share this knowledge. Like, oh my God, I wish I would have had somebody sharing this knowledge with me 10 years ago. Think, what could have been had we known then, but
absolutely.
here we are.
Yep. And if there's more, and I'm happy to chat too, to husbands or anybody too, if anybody's, if the wife's leading the charge here, and because you got me on board. And
that's what I was going to say in the beginning, way back in the beginning, was that thank you for being a willing participant, because a lot of husbands I've seen and heard from other women, like, well, I do all this and I do it for the kids, but like my husband won't do it. And I can't imagine that. That would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
For me. I mean, I would have to just be in prayer a lot, because I would think that you're honestly not smart. Like if someone's providing you with the evidence, and I think that was big. It was like, I was not just ordering you like, do this. Well, number one, it all was like for your health issues. So yeah, you really would have been an idiot not to listen. But I also provided for all the changes. I feel like I've provided the proof to back it up, not just like, oh, seed oils are bad. I'm like constantly sending him stuff or showing him stuff, or I'm like, look at this study.
And I've always had a strand of me too that like likes doing what other people don't do. So like I think that has helped me too. Like I did gymnastics when everybody else was doing football or baseball or whatever. Like I've always had that strand. So I think having that certainly helped as well. But yeah, it was just amazing. You did a great job of doing all that. But yeah, happy to share, happy to talk it through. Like need an accountability partner or just someone to talk to. And if you get stressed out by this stuff, like we've been there too, nights of crying and
it is hard. I mean, it's really
so
hard. And I think for us, what made it possible was that we know that there are bad outcomes that can happen if you're not doing this, and we don't want that for any of you. Like that's really hard. I think that's exactly it. Like what changing our diet, cutting out things we used to like eating, making more meals at home was hard, but it wasn't as hard as having thyroid cancer. It wasn't as hard as losing my dad. So it just pales in comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't just do the thing that feels hard now because it's not as hard as other things.
It's how parenting goes too. Not to derail, but I've always said that. If you put in the work now.
I know. We don't have that hindsight yet, but
no, I know.
Someday.
Someday.
10 years from now, and you're listening to episode 1237. So way back in episode 2.
Yeah. We'll see. But I think that's a wrap. We appreciate you guys listening, and please reach out for anything.
Like and subscribe.
Yes.
We got to start our spiel. We're like not good at this yet. So if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to give it a 5-star review, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that jazz.
You know what to do. Everyone else has told you enough.
Yeah, just do what all those other people tell you to do that you probably don't do, but you definitely are going to do it for us.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.